Welcome to Wednesday Morning Live. We're going to pick up on part 2 of what we started on biblical manhood, being a Christian man in the 21st century. And we ticked off a lot of people with part 1, and we're really excited to, go ahead and cut our viewership in half again.
Step at me, bro.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah, it's really, and by the way, we're being a caricature right now of what men are. Because this is what the world tells us. Just be mean, just be bold. Just
That's right. Say what needs to be said and move on.
Yeah, just say what needs to be said
it.
and then walk away. Well, that doesn't always work. And so we have been trying over the first video and this video, to encourage men to be the Christian men that God has called them to be. And we're gonna pick up with the 5 things we need to embrace as men. But before we do, Travis is gonna talk to us a little bit about the ramifications if we don't. Because here's the truth. You should do this.
Yeah.
For most of us, it's like, we should do it because the Bible says it. But most of us ain't gonna do it unless there's like some punishment or ramifications if they don't. And if we don't, there are ramifications and there are ripple effects in the lives of our kids, our community, and those around us. So Travis, talk to us a little bit about that.
So I just want to speak to, and I'm not going to call names. I don't want to offend people, but...
A man would. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I am just kidding.
I just know from a lot of things that I saw growing up, when a man doesn't lead the household,
right,
and let's say the woman is in the forefront, then 2 things happen.
Yeah.
Daughters become super strong-minded and ridiculously overly independent.
Okay.
And sons are just weak people.
Pushovers.
Yes, very much so.
And then the woman's able to overpower the man.
Right. Because that's what they've seen.
Yeah.
That's what they've grown up in.
Right.
That's what they've seen.
So would they take whatever our trait is and they amplify it, or they take it times 2?
Right.
Right. And we have people in our church, like you were talking about. Your grandmother was more outspoken than your grandfather. That's fine.
Yeah.
Your grandfather had a quiet confidence.
Yes.
He wasn't getting beat up or pushed around by his spouse. And so we're not talking about like, well, I'm always right. That's nonsense too. We're talking about guys who are such a pushover and just abdicate leadership to their wife. Well, you tell us what we're doing. And by the way, like, my wife sets our calendar because I'm really bad with that, but she trusts me with like our finances. Like, it's not that, I'm in charge of everything or I don't do anything. No, it's understanding that we have responsibility here, but I'm not responsible for everything and I make every decision. I trust my wife. I love my wife. She loves our family, and so she knows how to spend our time and how to allocate our week, our month, whatever. But you're speaking to something deeper than that. You're talking about when, man, a spouse is really beating the other one down. No, I'm in charge. And this happens all the time in both directions.
Yeah.
Like, husbands can beat their wife down and say, no, I'm always right. And man, that's just a stupid way to live. And we see it on the flip side.
Yeah, and if you add to it, if the man is like what we talked about last week, supposed to be control his emotions, if that's not something he does and he's abusive verbally, he's abusive physically, it's almost like daughters grow up and think that's okay.
That's exactly right. And so when their boyfriend pushes them around, they think, well,
I watched mama do this for years, so okay, this is what I'm supposed to be okay with this.
So they're attracted to men who are angry, abusive. Yeah.
My wife tells me all the time, she says, I want you to date our daughters so that they know how to.
Absolutely.
Or what to expect whenever it comes. And if you're a dude you're single and you're on the dating scene, whatever, dude, you got to treat your girlfriend with respect, on dates. Treat them like.
Yeah. And then once you get married, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Oh, what? No?
Good point. Elaborate on that a little bit. Continue on.
It should carry over into your marriage too, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's true. Like, I want my daughter to know what is expected, and also we have to be careful as men how we treat our wives.
Because your daughter watches.
They're watching.
Yeah,
she's watching if you date your wife.
What Travis is saying is absolutely true. If I'm coming in and I'm going to my room to watch Netflix, YouTube, whatever, and my wife is hanging out with the kids, guess what my daughter's going to expect when she gets older? And I'm going to hate that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
You're gonna be like, what a terrible dad you are, like I was.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that's spot on, Travis.
Yeah.
So when your kids watch you, are they going to see a husband that dates his wife or just uses his wife for physical pleasure and then is done with her, to get things done in the house and then so he can go have fun?
Yeah.
Her opinion doesn't matter. The weekend is all about his plans. Maybe she can take the kids to church, but his weekend is his.
Right.
Like there's no us, there's no ours.
Yeah.
Man, when you grow up watching that, you just begin to assume that number one, it's normal. Number two, like that's what should be expected in my life. So raise the bar, if not for your sake, for your kids' sake, absolutely. These things matter.
You can tell your kids whatever you want, but they're learning from your actions.
That's true.
Right.
That's fair.
Absolutely.
They're not learning from our words. Words are cheap. Actions go deep.
Yeah. It's really good.
That's
I like
good.
That
Kev.
rhymed.
That's
That
good,
rhymed.
Kev.
We're gonna write a man song.
Somebody write that down.
I like
don't
it,
write
Kev.
man-
You
you don't
gotta
write-
tweet that.
You don't
Put it
write
back.
man poems, you write man songs. All right, we're gonna pick up on number 3 of the 5 biblical manhood, like things we should embrace as a man. Number 3, we talked last week about providing, having self-control. We're gonna talk this week about how to protect, right? A man protects his family. And man, we as men know this. Proverbs 4:10-15 describes a father who protects his son by passing on wisdom, helping him build godly character. Because when you hear protect, what you think is, yeah, I've got a gun. All right. If you're only protecting your kids from physical harm, that's part of it. Like, that's important. That's not all of it.
Right.
I'll just ask you this way, Dad. Are you protecting your sons from everything the internet has to offer? I don't know that you, I know that you, like, look, once your son is determined, like, it's going to be really hard. But are you even trying?
Yeah.
Right.
Or are you just like, no, that's just part of being a boy?
Well, let's just ask this: are you protecting yourself from the internet?
That's
Word.
it.
I mean, that's
That's
part
it.
of it. Yeah.
Because like, if you ain't protecting yourself,
Yeah, your son has no shot. So in this Proverbs passage, he protects his son by passing on wisdom, helping him build godly character, and teaching him to reject the lies and temptations of the world. So when we talk about protecting our children, we are not just talking about do the locks on your door work.
Right.
That's like level 1.
Yeah.
Everyone
That's
is,
surface.
Everyone is doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you an applause for that. Like, you better do that on your own.
yeah, my kids, when I leave the house, my kids do that. They lock the door.
I was 3. I knew how to lock the
Yeah,
door.
exactly.
So are you protecting your family spiritually? Are you even concerned about your kids' spiritual well-being? Are you protecting them emotionally?
Yeah, it's the biblical worldview versus the
Right. Yeah.
worldview.
Right. Yeah, just
Yeah.
whatever comes.
Yeah.
As Paul said, those who are carried away with every wind of doctrine, like there's a new thing, like, oh, I believe that. Oh, I like that. I support this.
Yeah.
I support that. And it's like, are you protecting your kids' minds? Or are you just like, well, whatever they learn's cool. Whatever their friends have to tell them about sex, that's fine.
Yeah, I like the part where it talks about teaching him to reject the lies and temptations of the world.
Yeah.
And we live in a sexualized world.
That's right.
Where
Yes.
everything is in your face.
Yep.
And I still remember my dad in the grocery checkout line, the magazines that were there, he would take and turn them around backwards. And a lot of us would say, oh, that's terrible. Why would you? What my dad was teaching me was protect your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Protect the lies of this world, because what the world wants you to see is that this is what it is. It's all about fashion. It's all about beauty. It's all about
Right.
but there's so much more to relationships than
Right.
that. And that right there is a stepping stone to something else that will destroy a relationship of you and your wife.
Yeah.
And it will lead your kids the same path.
Right.
And so if your kids see you diverting your eyes to different things, they notice.
Absolutely. They
And they're
notice.
learning.
Yeah. That's like Travis said, they're sponges, man. Their eyes are on you all the time.
Yeah.
So you want to protect your family, protect yourself.
That's a really good
That's
point.
good.
That's really good.
Put
That's
biblical guidelines in place.
Want to protect your family, protect
Make sure
yourself.
that you are following what God has for your life. Because if you're following what God has for your life, it's going to pass on to your kids.
the ladies are loving this. The men have all logged off because we've angered them so much. But there are so many tweets we've already got from this.
I
just
know,
from
man.
Pastor Kevin talking.
Kev-
like
Kev was
he's
batting
rhyming,
1,000
he's
today.
hitting it. It's great. It's really,
Never
really
happened.
good.
Yeah, man.
Like, look, we're serious. Dude, how are you protecting your family? Like, if I were to ask you right now, how are you protecting them physically? You'd probably give me 100 answers.
Yeah.
I got the best car. I got like airbags on every side of their great. I am super glad. But you do know that like your kid could grow up physically fine and emotionally damaged, right? You know, your kid could grow up spiritually just broken because you protected them physically. And I want you to protect them physically. I want you to protect them financially. But that's not all there is to life.
Yeah.
How many of us grew up in homes where our parents made sure we were fed and put to bed on time, but we never had any emotional bond. We never had any emotional health in our home. We never saw a dad love a mother. We never witnessed real family love and confrontation done right, not the wrong way.
Yeah.
Again,
That's a big one.
yeah.
Confrontation
Absolutely.
done right, not the wrong way.
Absolutely.
Like I had to learn that. And you know, we're saying all this stuff, and I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate because this is my struggle.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
I
We are
have
not
this struggle.
preaching at you because we've got it figured out.
There are things that I'm going to say I've overcome, and I don't mean I've beat it, but I've come to a point in my life where I've seen progress.
Yes.
Sanctification, somebody told me
Yes.
sanctification is not like perfection. It's getting to the point where you're doing it less and less.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me because I think a lot of us were like, well, I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Probably never going to be perfect.
But we're passionate about this because we're struggling with this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so
yes.
if we're struggling with it, we know that you're struggling with
Absolutely.
it. Because every man's struggle is the same.
That's right.
We struggle with the same things.
I think when we hear the word protection, we get this John Wayne image in our head, right? So I wish somebody would kick in my door.
Yeah.
I wish someone would. Let me tell you something right now. Low likelihood someone ever breaks into your house, but you're all ready for that. High likelihood, culture's coming for your kids.
Yep.
Absolutely.
High likelihood,
Yep.
some of your kids' friends are telling them nonsense about sex.
Oh, yeah.
Or telling them nonsense
Yeah.
about themselves. Or telling them nonsense about how they should feel.
Yeah.
High probability there. So yeah, protect your home, but understand percentages. Unlikely, super likely. What you doing over here, dude? And I'm not saying like, I'm telling you it's tough, but you better understand it's not just your job to get them healthy to 18. All right, you're on your own.
Yeah.
You want your son to have character, you're gonna have character, and you're gonna have to instill character.
Yep.
You want your daughter to realize the lies around her, you're gonna have to help her confront the lies around her.
Yeah.
And that is what protection looks like.
And dudes looking at starting a family or having a family or being involved in a family, being a family man, you're not there yet. You need to put these things in place now.
Right.
Because, man, I wish I would have had some of these things in
Oh,
place.
yeah.
It does not get easier
Absolutely.
when you're married
Yeah.
with kids and
Everybody's
a
like,
job.
well, when I get married, I won't have.
Yeah, right, man. Let me knock a little lie out of your head right now. I have talked to 75-year-olds in our church in Christian leadership, and I said over and over, I just thought the older I get, the easier this would get. And they'd say, Mark, I'm 70 blank, whatever, years old. It is just as hard now to control my eyes as it was when I was 18.
Yeah.
It is just as hard now to control my thought life, to maintain self-control, not to get angry every time something happens. So don't buy this lie that, well, I'll get older, it'll get easier. No, it'll probably get harder because you begin letting habits creep in and you start just doing whatever you feels good. I'll put it to you this way, and we'll wrap up this little topic here on the protection part. When you and I focus on protection, often what we're imagining is this unlikely thing, and we're forgetting about the likely thing, but then we don't know what to do with the likely thing. Let me tell you one of the ways you can protect your kids. This is why we're really passionate about men in leadership in their home and in church. When kids come to our church and they see men leading in kids group and teaching, that really matters to us because we want young men, we want little boys to see that it's not just a bunch of ladies who go to church. Go ahead.
I think it's hilarious because Miss Shannon, our kids leader, she gets so frustrated because when the men go in to teach or lead, the kids listen and they sit up and they pay attention. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I pour my heart into this. And ladies, I feel you.
Yep, it's not fair.
But like, this is legit. This is biblical. The Bible or God put this very clear that the man is to be the lead, not the lead like beat on my chest, I'm in charge.
Do what I say.
Right, but lovingly lead. I know that's where we're going. But anyway,
Go ahead.
It's funny how Miss Shannon even points out like
The kids get
when
it.
men are in there with the kids, the kids just listen, and it's not because they're screaming and yelling because we hear them in here.
Right.
Right.
But it's because there's a reverence and an awe and something about a male figure in a child's life.
Yes.
It's important. It's vital.
And in a lot of their lives, they're around ladies all the time. It's like 70% of teachers are women. And so that when a man comes in, it's like, oh, it's different, And for whatever reason, kids respond to that. And so when you bring your kids to church and you surround your kids with godly people, you're protecting them. When you are proactive in their spiritual life, when you're proactive in their lives, you're protecting them.
Yeah.
There is nobody you'd rather be instilling character in your child's life than you. You should not be abdicating that to some teacher or even some kid's teacher. I want you to bring your kids to church, but I don't want you just to be like, do whatever Miss Shannon says.
Right.
Do whatever Mr. Pete says. Do whatever Pastor Kevin says. No, you need to be saying, hey, what are you learning in there? What's going on in your life? You should be involved. I know we could camp out here. Another number 4, and we'll link to this blog post because it really got us fired up. A Christian man serves and leads his family. We're going to talk about Ephesians 5:23, the verse a bunch of you guys and us guys take out of context. It says the husband is the head of the wife. You notice the rest of that verse, though? It says he's to love his wife as Christ loves the church. Yeah, Christ
That's all
is
in the same verse. It's not another verse?
right. That's in the context. You know what he's saying there? You are to love your wife so sacrificially that you would die for her like Jesus died for the church. You are to serve your wife so sacrificially that you would serve your wife the way that Jesus serves his church. And guess what? On Sunday morning, you know who's not up here beating his chest every Sunday morning? It's not how Jesus serves. It's not how he acts. He died on the cross. He rose from the dead. His name is greater than every other name, but he serves the church. He loves the church. Yeah, he's the head of the church, but not in this thumb you down, push you down. No, in this, let me lift you up. He put it to his disciples this way. The world has this pyramid idea where you're at the top, you have all these people under you. He said, I've come to flip that on its head, and you serve by being under people and loving people and care. And most of us as husbands, that's not how we want to live. Mm-hmm. But a biblical man, a Christian man, and you can do this as a single man too. Mm-hmm. You can love and serve your family, your extended family, your parents, your nephews, your nieces. This is not just something that's for a Christian man who's married with wife and kids. You should be leading and serving others inside the body of believers, inside your family. What's that look like? I mean, I know y'all could talk about sacrifice till you're blue in the face. What does sacrificial love and service look like? How does that work?
Well, I'll say, I'll give you a story. Last year, 2020, probably craziest year ever known to man.
That's right.
Very tough year for me. I was turning 40, and all the expectations of where I should have been, what I should have by the time I was 40.
Yeah.
It was like midlife crisis type thing. And so one good thing that happened is I got together with some worship leaders last year, and we kind of created this community where we just kind of get together and we write songs, but we didn't really come together to write songs. We came together just to have like community of, you know, if you need to vent about this or you're struggling with this, we get together, we get in God's presence, we study his word, all of that stuff. Just worship leading is a weird, isolated job, if that makes sense. So, one of my brothers, and I've had him on the show before. His name was Dom. He came on with Kristen like probably months ago now.
Yeah.
And Dom, I started learning a lot of things about family from Dom. And he doesn't even know that this is the first time.
Right.
If he watches this, he'll hear this.
Right.
Be like, hey, man, what you up to, man? You trying to link up this weekend? He would be like, nah, man. I got to spend time with the family. And the first time he said it, I was like, and then it became a consistent theme of, well, let me see what the family's doing first, and I'll get back to you. So we have this accountability amongst, you know, the group of worship leaders and musicians and stuff we put together. So last year, I'll never forget this because it ripped my heart out, and I was like, so me and Priscilla are having a disagreement.
So y'all have those?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We don't.
Yeah, we're having a disagreement. We're having a disagreement.
We have screaming matches.
Well, it was a screaming match. Well, no, it wasn't a screaming match. I was screaming, she wasn't.
What level? Neighbors heard it, neighbors didn't hear it.
Neighbors definitely heard it.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
That's a good one.
So
It's like level 2.
So this is what, now she knows.
Door slamming?
Nah.
That's level 3.
So,
Did anybody drive away angry?
Nah.
That's level 4. Or go on.
That's
sorry.
happened before, but not this time. So she's that I'm sitting there and I'm in. I'm all the way in. Like, are you serious? Da, 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 da. And she stopped me with the calmest voice ever, and she says, "I wonder if Dom and
Oh,
Chris.
snap.
I wonder if Dom and Kristen know you talk to your wife like this." And
I got
stepped-
goosebumps.
I stepped back.
How dare you? How dare you?
What's Dom and Kristen got to do with this? I'm talking to you.
I don't see them in the room.
I'm
Travis,
a real man.
You
Let
should
me
have let
yell
us
some
finish that argument for you,
Man,
bro.
man, like that was like check mode real
Yeah.
quick,
Our wives have a way of.
you know, because what she pretty much was saying was, you don't talk to me like that when they're around. So why are you talking to me like that now? Do they know that you talk? Because she
Right.
knows the level of accountability
Yeah.
we have amongst each other. Do they know that you talk to me like this? And it just, I was like, oh, it was a light bulb going off for me.
So
For
your
real.
buddy Dom, his family is this priority where even when it's things he would want to do,
Yeah.
he sacrificially loves them in such a way where
Absolutely.
they're the priority, not him.
Absolutely.
And this is part of serving like Jesus serves the church and
Yeah.
loving your wife like Jesus loves.
Yeah.
Guys, I got bad news for us. Part of being the guy is we take a back seat.
Yeah.
It ain't about you anymore. Like the moment you get married, it's about us, it's about them, it's about my kids, it's about my family. And if that sounds awful, I'm sorry. That's just, biblically, that's how it works. If you're just a dude watching this and you're not a Christian, you can do whatever you want because, you know, there'll be consequences, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
But when we look at the word, it says, like, we're to put their needs above our own. We basically are signing up to love them so sacrificially that our needs are second place to theirs.
Yeah.
So
It's selflessness. Are we being selfless as men? And I think a lot of times because of we are selfish individuals.
yeah.
We don't put others' needs ahead of ours, much less our wives.
Right.
And
Right.
you know, I'm saying our wives and our kids, but even as a single man, like there are other people's needs ahead of ours.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us love your neighbor as yourself, and then the question is, who is my neighbor? Like,
Right.
you know, you want to be a man, show that love, show that selflessness to others, even when it's hard, you know, and that's where character comes in.
Yeah.
Is doing what you can or what you should, even when no one else knows.
I think that's my frustration with people who take Ephesians 5 out of context and use it to beat up their wife. Like, you've got to submit to me, you've got to do what I want. And there's a whole generation of men who basically use verses like that and the threat of divorce. And that's, Jesus was upset because those Pharisees were using the letter of divorce basically as like, it would kill those women. They were turning them over to a culture where women weren't allowed to work, and so they were just releasing them to the streets. And so often, like, they were basically a widow at that point. They had no way to provide for themselves, and that's why Jesus comes down so hard on it. But here's what frustrates me: a bunch of guys use Ephesians 5 and the threat of divorce. Like, well, we're Christians. You can't leave me, so you just got to do whatever I say because I'm in charge. And we use that verse that is there to hold us to this high standard.
Yeah.
We use it to remove accountability from
Yeah.
ourselves, to lower
Absolutely.
the bar.
Yeah.
And there's a whole generation of Christian men, not all of them, who did that.
Yes.
And so culture's always going to change. And right now, let's just be honest, culture is putting men to the fire.
Yeah.
They're being held accountable for bad actions. And you know
Yeah.
what? Accountability sometimes feels like crap. I'm sorry, feels bad because you've never dealt with it before. But biblically, we should have accountability.
Yeah.
You should not be caught up in a scandal as a Christian
Absolutely.
man, not because you shouldn't get caught, because you should have accountability where you shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Absolutely.
And here's the problem I have with a lot of us Christian men sometimes is we get into positions of power or wealth or privilege, and then we don't want accountability. We want everyone else to have accountability. You will fall if you have all the control, if you have all the power, and no one can hold you accountable.
Yep.
We have seen it with Christian ministries over and over and over again. One guy's in charge, he's got all the money, he's got all the power, and he's got some skeletons in his
Yeah.
closet. What did you
Yeah.
expect?
Yeah.
We
My wife-
are broken.
My wife says all the time. She says, "I can tell when a man is running something,
Yeah.
because there's a masculinity to it. It's a I'm in charge type scenario." And she says that about churches a lot. I can tell that a man is coming up with that. So
There's all these protections against other issues, but accountability is like at the bottom of the priority list. Anyways, we're harping on some things we've already talked about. Number 5, the the fifth real element of being a Christian man. A man follows God's design for true masculinity. Micah 6:8 says this. He told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? The core of a man's life should be his relationship with the Lord, and the man who walks humbly with God is motivated and empowered to step up and assume difficult responsibilities that come his way. I'm going to be honest with you guys, justice is hard. Kindness is hard. Loving is hard. But we don't get a pass like, well, it's hard, I can't do it. Following the Lord should lead us in such a way where we're filled with the Holy Spirit and we can do what is hard. We're not going to nail it every time.
Yeah.
All these topics we've talked about, I have dropped the ball.
Absolutely.
Like we could.
I dropped it. Which
I'm agreeing that you.
Right.
I'm agreeing that you. Yeah. I'm just agreeing.
It's time for me to get piled on here. So what do we do with all this information? Well, it's good. No, you've got to come to the place where you're like, I'm ready to be the biblical, a Christian man like God wants me to be. I'm just gonna tell you right now, you're gonna be in church Sunday. If it's not our church, it's fine, but you're gonna be in church. You're gonna be part of a men's accountability group. That could be a small group. That could be an addiction group if you've got some kind of addiction. That could be you and a couple of buddies getting together and holding one another accountable. Have you looked at anything? Have you been involved in anything? Have you been running game on your wife? Like, what is going on? Or if you're single, same story, same scenario.
And how many times are we as men, we make excuses?
I'm too busy.
That and, well, the church doesn't have a group that really fits my needs.
Oh, you guys have a Saturday group and a Monday group?
Yeah.
You know, if you had a Thursday at 5 a.m. group, I'd probably be there. But until you guys have that.
But here's the thing, like Pastor said, and Travis, start something.
Yeah.
Get your dudes together and hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And bring them in and be like, hey, you know what? We're tight. But we don't ever talk spiritual, but we're going to start.
I don't know how to do that. Yeah, when you didn't know how to fix that electrical at your house, you found a YouTube video, though.
Right.
When your car wasn't running right, you found a YouTube video for
Right.
that. When you didn't know which mechanic to call, you knew how to use Google.
Yeah.
Quit hitting us
If
with this.
only we had like a YouVersion app or
Oh,
a Bible
man.
app or something
Yeah.
like that we should just get easy Bible
Oh,
studies.
man.
All right, we're preaching now because
Right
there ain't
now,
no
media?
excuse.
No,
Yeah.
probably not.
Yeah. I know you ain't got time, but you got time for like those 7 hobbies you've been spending all kinds of money on.
I guarantee if you're like, man, my wife just doesn't want me gone all the time, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee if you go to your
100%.
wife and you say, you know what?
Money back guarantee.
I am going to start a Bible study with these men.
Right.
And she sees
Yeah.
that change that takes place
Right.
because you're truly studying the Bible.
Right.
And she can even drop those bombs like, what would you do if your friends were around?
Right. So wives, if you're the only ones watching this, all the guys have logged off. You share this with your husband and say, hey, you've always got permission to go to a men's Bible study. You've always got permission to serve at church. Watch what happens when you get around other Christian men, dudes, and you start serving.
Absolutely.
You start growing in your walk with Jesus. I'm going to screw it up. Yeah. That's cool. The pastor screws it up. And we all screw it up. But it's part of focusing and committing to being the man God called you to be.
Yeah.
So anything y'all would add before we close off?
I would say this. If you have a group of friends or brothers, guys, whatever, even females, whatever, if you have a group of friends and certain things are off subject, like, hey, man, I just seen you. I know you married, and I just seen you checking out this girl for like 15 minutes. If you have a group of friends and y'all can't talk to each other like that, they're not your friends.
Oh, yeah.
They're not your friends.
It's true.
Like, the people I have around me, they know if I see something, I'm going to say it. And I know if they see something, they're going to say it. And that's the type of people I want in my life because, like Pastor was saying, one person, leadership, has all the power, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, you know? And I think a lot of times it happens because they don't have people that
Can actually
confront them, or they can even be vulnerable with about something they may be struggling with or wrestling with, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And with that friend thing, you know, we as parents, we can see our kids hanging out with friends that they don't need to hang out with, and we can share into that.
How dare you say that about my son?
But there's a lot of times that we as dads, we as humans, we surround ourselves with friends who aren't going to lift us up and who aren't going to say anything because it's easier.
Bunch of yes men.
Yeah, let me look at my thing. I'll let you look at your thing. We won't say anything to anybody. Man,
You are the product.
That's garbage.
You are the
That's
product of
garbage.
the 5 people you surround yourself with. Surround yourself with godly men, with Christian men, with guys who are getting it. Not perfect. Watch yourself grow. Watch yourself become more of a godly man, a Christian man God wants you to be. So, y'all, we've wrestled with a lot. We're going to link to this blog post. Super grateful for Crew, their ministry with college students, and this blog post that we kind of chewed up a little bit and added our own little flavor to. But look, if you're a man, you got to commit to this. Be in church on Sunday. Get around some Christian dudes. Don't hit me with, well, I don't have there's a church near you, all right? You might have to drive 45 minutes. There's some church somewhere. There's probably a church with a men's group. Go online, use that Google use for every other problem you got, and say, I'm willing enough to grow spiritually that I'm going to actually use the same tools I use to fix every other problem in my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then take those steps and watch what could happen. Not next week, not next month. Watch what can happen over the course of a year. When you get around some godly men and start growing in your walk with Jesus. All right, y'all good?
I'm good.
Thank you, ladies,
Good,
for watching.
man.
Share this with your husband because we know we already ticked him off, but hope this helps somebody. Y'all have a good rest of your Wednesday.
See y'all.